Have you ever wondered what are some of the stupidest 911 calls? Well, let me tell you, the world never ceases to amaze. While 911 is a lifeline, an integral part of our society that has saved countless lives, it has also been the recipient of some, let's say, less than urgent calls. Picture this. It's a quiet night, the calm voice of an operator ready to address any emergency. And then, someone calls in to complain about a cold burger at a fast food joint. Sounds hard to believe, right? Yet, situations like these are more common than you might think. Today, we're going to explore some of the most mind-boggling, ludicrous calls that 911 operators have had the, pleasure of fielding. So buckle up. Ready to dive into the world of absurd 911 calls? Brace yourselves, it's going to be a wild ride. Kicking off our countdown at number 10, we have an unusual request for fast food delivery. Picture this, a hungry citizen in the middle of the night decides to dial 911. Now you might be thinking, was there a burglar? A fire? No, this individual had a craving. A craving so intense that they thought it warranted an emergency call. You see, this person, in their infinite wisdom, dialed 911 because they were hungry and wanted a hamburger delivered straight to their door. As you can imagine, the dispatcher was quite taken aback. But of course, they reminded the caller that 911 is for emergencies only, not midnight snack deliveries. So the next time you're hit with a sudden craving for a juicy burger, remember this tale. While we can all appreciate a good burger, 911 is definitely not the right number to dial for your fast food cravings. At number 9, we have a call that takes lost and found to a whole new level. Imagine this. You've just settled down for a night of binge-watching your favorite show, and suddenly, your television remote is nowhere to be found. Panic ensues, right? But would you dial 911? Well, believe it or not, someone did. In this comically absurd instance, a distressed caller reached out to emergency services to report a lost television remote. Yes, you heard it right. The remote. Now, we've all been there, losing the remote in the heat of a cliffhanger moment, but to consider it an emergency? That's a first. The operator, understandably taken aback, had to explain that a missing remote, as frustrating as it might be, doesn't quite qualify as a 911 situation. A gentle reminder to us all that emergency services are for, well, emergencies. Next time you lose your remote, remember it's probably in the couch, not a case for the emergency services. Coming in at number 8, we have a call that's a real hair-raising experience. This story begins with a person who, like many of us, had a bad hair day. But instead of donning a hat or resorting to a quick updo, they decided that their unruly locks constituted an emergency. Imagine this. You wake up, your hair is a mess, sticking up in ways physics can't explain. Rather than reaching for the hairspray, you reach for the phone and dial 911. That's exactly what this individual did. The operator, unsurprisingly, was taken aback. Frizzy, tangled, or flat hair, it seems, doesn't quite make the cut for emergency services. The bewildered operator had to explain this, reminding the caller that 911 is reserved for life-threatening situations, not cosmetic crises. So the moral of the story? A bad hair day might ruin your selfie, but it's not a reason to dial 911. Yes, bad hair days can be a bummer, but not exactly an emergency. Our number 7 is a call that gives petty crime a whole new meaning. Picture this, a serene evening, a quiet apartment, and a roommate who decided to take a bite out of crime, literally. The unfortunate victim in this story had been saving a slice of their favorite pizza, only to discover it had mysteriously disappeared. The culprit? Their roommate, who, without a shred of remorse, confessed to the heinous act. Now, we've all had our share of roommate squabbles, but this individual took it a step further. They dialed 911, demanding justice for their stolen pepperoni delight. The operator, caught off guard, had to gently remind them that such a minor dispute didn't quite qualify as an emergency. Regrettably, the pizza thief was never brought to justice, at least not in the eyes of the law. So, the next time you're tempted to swipe your roommate's food, remember this tale. Food theft is annoying, but it's safe to say it's not a 911-worthy offense. At number 6, we have a call that's all about fashion emergencies. Imagine this, a sunny morning, perhaps a bit chilly. You're standing in front of your closet, the dilemma of the century before you, what to wear. One person, in their quest for sartorial perfection, decided to dial 911. Yes, you heard it right, a 911 call for fashion advice. The bewildered operator, likely expecting a report of a crime or a medical emergency, instead got a frantic question about whether to pair a blue shirt with gray pants or opt for the classic black and white ensemble. I wish we were kidding, but truth is stranger than fiction. The operator, maintaining professionalism, reminded the caller that 911 is reserved for real emergencies. Not knowing what to wear doesn't quite make the cut. So, the next time you're in a fashion fix, remember this story. Remember, fashion advice is best left to your friends, not the emergency services. Cracking our top 5, we have a call that's quite puzzling. Now imagine this. A person so engrossed in a jigsaw puzzle that they begin to see it as their own personal Everest. The hours tick by and piece by stubborn piece the image starts to take shape. Then it hits them, the dreadful realization that they just can't complete it. Frustration sets in, and in a moment of desperation they reach for the phone and dial 911. Yes, you heard that right. A jigsaw puzzle turned into a perceived emergency. The call must have left the operator scratching their head, wondering if they'd misheard or if this was some sort of prank. Yet it was as real as it gets. A person genuinely needed help with their jigsaw puzzle and they thought 911 was the place to get it. Unsolved puzzles can be frustrating, but they're not exactly life-threatening. In the number 4 spot, we have a call that's all about musical emergencies. This one might sound like a scene out of a sitcom, but it happened in real life. A distressed individual actually dialed 911 to lodge a complaint about their neighbor's bad singing. Can you imagine the surprise of the operator on the other end of the line? 911, what's your emergency? And the response? My neighbor is singing off-key, and it's driving me mad. It's hard to keep a straight face thinking about it. While we can all sympathize with the agony of being subjected to a neighbor's relentless and tuneless serenade, it's important to remember that 911 is reserved for real emergencies. Bad singing, no matter how ear-splitting, doesn't quite make the cut. So, the next time your neighbor decides to give a midnight concert, maybe invest in some earplugs instead of reaching for the phone. As much as we hate off-key singing, it's not a case for the emergency services. At number 3, we have a call that's quite out of this world. Picture this. It's late at night, the sky is clear, and our caller is looking up at the heavens. Suddenly, they spot an unidentified flying object, or UFO, hovering ominously in the darkness. Filled with panic, they quickly dial 911, their voice trembling as they report their otherworldly encounter. Now, you might be wondering, did we have a close encounter of the third kind? Well, not quite. The 911 operator, trying to keep the caller calm, asks them to describe this UFO. And as the caller details the bright, round, silvery object, the operator realizes the truth. They're not describing an alien spacecraft, but something much closer to home, the moon. Yes, our caller had mistaken our very own natural satellite for a UFO. Before reporting a UFO, always double-check if it's not just the moon. Our runner-up is a call that's all about social media emergencies. Now imagine this, you're scrolling through your Facebook feed when suddenly, you realize that you've been locked out of your account. Your heart starts to race, your palms get sweaty, and in a fit of panic, you dial 911. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, our second most ridiculous call is from a person who did just that. This individual, in their moment of perceived crisis, believed that the right course of action was to involve the emergency services. The caller was under the impression that a hacked Facebook account was a matter of national security, deserving of immediate police intervention. But let's take a moment to put things into perspective here. While it's undoubtedly frustrating to have your social media account hacked, it's hardly a life-threatening situation. It's an issue to be resolved with customer service, not the police. So, remember folks, Facebook hacking can be distressing, but it's not a 911-worthy offense. And finally, the number 1 spot on our countdown goes to a call that's all about ghost busting. Now we've heard some pretty outlandish calls today, but this one takes the cake. Picture this, it's midnight and a terrified caller dials 911. They frantically report a ghost in their house. Yes, you heard that right, a ghost. The person was convinced they were experiencing a real-life haunting. The operator, keeping their cool, asked if the person was in immediate danger. The caller responded with a resounding yes, insisting the ghost had moved a lamp. They were genuinely scared, and believed 911 was their best chance at surviving this supernatural encounter. It's hard to imagine the operator's reaction, but they professionally reminded the caller that 911 is for real-life emergencies. So while ghosts can be scary, it's important to remember that 911 is for real emergencies, not paranormal activity. So those were the 10 stupidest 911 calls. It's hard to believe, isn't it, that these calls actually happened. But while we've had a chuckle at these absurdities, It's important to remember that 911 is not a hotline for trivial complaints or nonsensical queries. This service is a lifeline, a critical point of contact for people in real, life-threatening emergencies. Every frivolous call made is potentially taking away resources from someone who really needs them, so let's treat it with the respect it deserves. Let's ensure that we're not contributing to the noise, but standing by for those moments when a call to 911 could mean a world of difference to someone else. It's not just about avoiding stupidity, it's about understanding the gravity of the service at our fingertips. Remember, only dial 911 in true emergencies. Stay safe, and we'll see you in the next video.